so this podcast is the JCS Show, Jacob Conlan Shields, with Bob Conlan, my grandfather, my middle name. But yeah, so I started this podcast since I like having conversations, and for the first few episodes, I just wrote down some questions, but I didn't have like a common theme, and then after I did it a few times, I arrived on the core question of what are your values in the context of your life story. So
Good.
I like that question because it kind of allows, I can talk with anyone, I can talk with the sports person, I'm a trainer, I can talk with my grandfather, anyone, it all kind of works the same. So,
Carl.
Yes.
So yeah, anyways, the way it'll work is I'll kind of just get a feel for your life story, which I already know some of the details about. But one of the reasons I wanted to do this is I've heard a lot of stories about my great-grandfather, your father. I've heard stories from you, from my mom, and I think it would be cool to have a recorded conversation with him. Yeah, just
Good.
I would always like to see that, and so it's
Good.
part of the reason I wanted to record that is just to have that for the future. So tell me a little about yourself. Like, I know you're from outside of Pennsylvania, so where did you born and grow up?
Kind of born and raised in a Philadelphia suburban area, 1947. I'm 77 years old. Unlike my daughter's adventurous Shield side of the family that have traveled, I basically am 6 or 7 miles literally from where I was born and raised, and 77 years and 3 or 4 houses later, I'm still in that same geographic area. I went to school in that area. I worked in that area. I was blessed to be in an industry for 37 years at the same place, the same company. And I think as that kind of ties to core values, I was blessed and fortunate that I was able to have a nice job and meet nice people and be able to live comfortably and enjoy life. So
Yeah.
but I'm really I really don't have anything to complain about. I've been very blessed with the way my life turned out and especially how you guys turned out. So,
Yeah.
so it's all good.
Yeah, so we're in Clearwater Beach. It's on the sign there, but yeah, we're living good here. And so tell me, you mentioned your career. So what was your career, and how did you end up?
I worked at a company called Conrail, which was a freight railroad company. I started in 1965 and left when the company actually was acquired in a hostile takeover in 1998. I left after the conveyance was finished in 2001 to complete my 37 years. I started out as a messenger boy, and I left as the vice president of information technology. So talk about being the right place, the right time. I was again fortunate enough to have a lot of mentors when I worked there.
Mentors in the company? In the
company that I didn't know before I got there. I was able to enjoy work, and really, 37 years, I really never had a bad boss. I was always a couple that I didn't always agree with, but it was always exciting work, and it was information technology. And at the time when I started there, like in 1965-ish or 66, it was kind of new to American industry that technology was starting to contribute to the bottom line with efficiencies, with data processing efficiencies to unfortunately replace people, with clerical effort people. But I loved it and learned a lot and was very, very happy with, I was going to say my career decision, but it all kind of just happened by chance. It wasn't planned.
Do you remember what made you apply to that job as a messenger?
I was going to work when I graduated. When I got out of school, high school, I didn't go to college. I took this job and it kind of led into. It was a Philadelphia-centric place. It was close to work. It had a decent. It was the time I thought it was going to be successful, although we went through a bunch of corporate issues. But it was all good. So it was all very, very enjoyable. Met a lot of good friends, people that we're still friendly with, even though the company's no longer here. I got to learn a lot about technology at the time, especially since it was so new, and got good travel, all nice. So, again, no complaints. So, and if I had to do it over again, I don't think I'd change a whole lot. So it was all good stuff.
So I'm a little curious about before you started at Conrail. So when you were in high school, like what kind of car did your family drive? What kind of music did you listen to?
Again, I was born in 1947, and I was, again, blessed because I really like cars and motorcycles and stuff. And that was, to me, America's sweet spot for the best cars. So the 1950s and 60s cars still was my dream to own those type of cars. So the first car that I remember riding in with my parents was a Jeep that my dad bought used off at the post office, and I remember sitting in my mom's lap, and when he rode, you could look down and see through the hole in the floor, and I'm guessing that was 1951 or 52. That I would maybe remember all that. But I remember going with my dad in 1955, and we bought an Oldsmobile 88 two-door coupe. It was aqua and white, and it was spectacularly beautiful. I remember going back with him in 1956, and we got a Super 88, and it was green and white, and it was even nicer than the other one. And then in 1958, he got a 58 Ford Fairlane 500, red and white, that with a big hot rod motor, which was spectacular. And then in 1960, he got a Ford Galaxy 500. In 62, he got another Galaxy 500 XL. In 64, he got another Galaxy 500 XL with an even bigger engine. And then when I got my driver's license, he got a thing called a Comet with a little tiny 6-cylinder. So he was a smart man. So, but I remember going with him shopping for the cars. And I remember always talking about cars with my cousins. It was either cars or Phillies baseball was what I remember growing up as the things. I went to a Catholic education.
I didn't know that.
For almost all of my schooling.
Did you have a heavy Catholic influence in your childhood?
Yeah, my mom and dad were both very, very religious people for their whole lives, and even until they passed away. Me, not so much.
At what point did you start not identifying so much with the Catholic?
I think I'm going to think maybe 14, 15 years old. I think the Catholic Church, there's a lot of things with miracles and sacraments and things that I had a hard time comprehending. That, but if other people believe it, that's fine.
Yeah.
I think you should. I think if you're a nice person and nice to people, that's. If there is a God, that's kind of why He put us here, not to be my religion's better than or different than your religion. So, but whatever.
Would you consider yourself Christian now? If I asked.
Maybe. Actually, I'm not even sure. I think the answer is probably yes. I wear a cross because the Carm got it for me. I guess I really don't remember the last time I was at church. But hey, whatever people want to believe, as long as they're good to the other ones, and But
I kind of feel the same way, honestly.
So, but it's if you're a good person, that's probably what you're here for. So
I think there's a lot to learn from religion, but I've never felt super. I've never identified with one like fully.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that's better.
yeah.
I actually think that as I aged, what changed me with religion, even if I kind of, I don't want to say stop believing, but stop practicing, was the more I learned about other people's religions, and especially the Jewish religion, because we had Jewish friends. If you squint your eyes, you can't tell the difference between one or the other. I mean, everything that the Catholic religion has from 2,000 years ago, if you believe that's when it all started. The Jewish religion had the same thing 5,000 years ago, and they just changed the names a little bit, and it's almost all exactly the same.
Yeah.
And the same with the Protestant faith that started later than that. And the little bit that I know about the Muslim religion, it's really close. I mean, it's you know, some of the words are different, and but the prayers and feasting and you know, a single deity kind of a thing. That's and I don't think I see a whole lot of a lot of difference in any religions.
Yeah, some different terms, similar themes.
Yeah. So
interesting. And then, so what the heritage? I wanted to touch on that too. It's Irish, right?
It's Irish heritage on both sides.
How far back?
And I think like my grandparents, one on each side, kind of came over from Ireland. Carmen and I were in Ireland, I think before COVID, so I guess 5 years ago, and we tried to do some homework on this side to find out a little more about the families. And I thought we would have found out more about my mom's, which was McNeely. McNeely and McWilliams was the two clan names, and we found out nothing. And my dad's was Conlan, C-O-N-L-A-N, and what I think we found out about it was that there probably wasn't really Conlan, it was some other spelling of O'Conlan or McConlan or Conley. I learned that C-O-N-L-A-N, which is how we spell our last name, is usually donated to Christian Irish, and C-O-N-L-I-N was usually the Northern Protestant Irish. And that was important because when we wound up in the Galway area where we had some luck tracing, I actually found a cousin's cousin, but not a cousin of mine, just from talking to people. And he said, well, you know, Galway is a little bit more north than like Shannon and all those other areas. And that would have, that name spelling would have been a big difference from, as a derivative of are you a Protestant or a Catholic. So, but we never really found any real people. And when we talked to people and me and 23, that's the wrong word.
23.
All that, it was nothing really ever really definitive. And we had a great tour guide at the last trip to Ireland, and he said during what they called the bad times, the wars between the Protestant and the Catholics, they burned all the records. So if you didn't have state records, you had to go to a parish or a church. But if you didn't know where your parents lived, in what neighborhood or county, I guess, you really couldn't. You couldn't drill down and find out where the name really was. So, but we tried. So, and when I do my what's it called? The 23.
23andMe.
23andMe. I think maybe more than half a dozen years ago, some family member gave that to everybody as a gift, and when we all did it, Carm, my wife, who always claims to be 100% Italian, turned out to be 60% Italian and 30% Jewish, and some other mixes I can't remember. And I was actually 99% Irish and 1% like Viking or Eric the Red. So, and I'm thinking, well, if you know history, that's probably what happened. They had their boats before anybody else,
Yeah.
I mean, from a European standpoint, and kind of pushed their way out through the island groups and over to America. So, but that I guess it's true. I don't know. But
maybe that's why I'm so big and strong.
It is why you're so big and strong. I actually think that's why we're blonder skin, and I think it's actually why Wendy was like really blonde and red, like really, and Maggie and your sister. It's very, they could just as easily be Irish or Vikings, whatever that could have been. So so neat stuff. So.
Yeah. Did you feel any Irish influence growing up? Like, was there corned beef and cabbage? Or
it was corned beef and cabbage. And the neighborhood that I lived in was a series of row homes. Well, my dad always told a story when he was born. He lived in West Philly. He and my mom were Depression babies. My mom was born in 1919. My dad was born in 1921. They grew up right through the middle of the Depression and then into World War II, and very, very blue collar, not wealthy families. We lived in a row home, inexpensive, and my dad always told the story that when he got rich the first time, he left a kind of depressed neighborhood in West Philadelphia and moved to Upper Darby, which is not a real fancy neighborhood. And then when he got rich the second time, he moved to Lawrence Park in Broomall, which was his dream because he had a brand new house. So,
how old were you when he made those moves?
I think I kind of remember living in West Philly, but mostly growing up in the Upper Darby house. And they moved out there when I was probably 14 or 15. And then, but like by 17, when out of school, I was out of there. So I really kind of mostly just lived in the Upper Darby house and the Broomall house for a short period of time. And our street, ethnically speaking, was, and religiously speaking, I think because of the blue collar nature, it was mostly Christian, and half of the kids were Irish kids and half of the kids were Italian kids.
Was there cultural divide? Like, was it?
No, you couldn't tell. It was all blended in. And actually, speaking of blending in, we lived in a series of row homes, and my mom and dad were one or two streets from the big intersection, or one or two homes from the big intersection. And next door or two doors down was my grandmother and grandfather, and next to them was another aunt and uncle and Barbara. And three more houses down was another aunt and uncle, the Russells. So I had there was 8 of us cousins, all within 300 feet of each other. And
was that a big part of your friend group?
It was huge. So when we had an alley in the back and we played stickball and baseball, and it was bad to say on film, but you could, there were row homes, and in the bottom of the row home there was like the old-time wash tubs. So if you're outside running around and all the bathrooms were on the upper floor, you really had to get a baby. You would just run in the basement and pee in the tub. So I was probably 12 or 13 when I decided I had like a 50-50 shot of having some relatives tub to pee in. But a couple times I think I made mistakes. But that was that kind of a neighborhood. So I loved it. I really think a huge part of me growing up was with all the family there, because we just, Christmases we were all together, Easters we all went to the same schools. It was a great life.
Yeah,
I wouldn't give it up. So
one thing I'm curious about, and this ties in a little bit, but just sort of the generational differences that you've experienced. Like, you mentioned your parents growing up in the Depression. You grew up shortly after World War II. And then going forward, like I didn't grow up playing stickball in the alley. Like there was TVs and iPods.
I remember getting our first TV. Actually, my grandparents had the first one on the block, and I think the only thing that was on besides the news was like Friday night fights, and we would all go to boxing. We would go to my grandparents, and all the neighbors would come in, and they all had like a quart of Ortlieb's beer, and that was like a big deal to you know, watch the fights on the TV. And my dad was in the oil business, retail fuel oil delivery. I think we were, and I don't think I realized at the time, I think we were much better off than a lot of the other people in the neighborhood, and that's why we moved out. He kind of moved up, if you will. I didn't. I don't know if I knew it enough at the time, but we always had. You know, my dad and my uncles. I don't ever remember anybody being out of work. I don't ever remember anybody being poor. We always did vacations to the New Jersey shore, which is, if you're from the East Coast, that's where kind of everybody went. Everybody always seemed like I think from an ecology standpoint, not good, but everybody always had a new big gas burning car that was inefficient and smelly and smoky, but everybody got a new one every couple of years. That was the way we grew up. So I think coming out of World War II, you can actually tell from my life, the American economy just went on the tear. You know, in '57 it was a depression. I was too young to really remember what it went, but after that it just was a rock. And even when I started working, even with a company that went bankrupt, I mean, I worked 37 years for the same company. I never ever lost a day's work. I mean, I was never out of work.
Yeah.
It was never a layoff or never a strike or any of that kind of stuff. So we're actually very blessed. I mean, a lot of people can't make that statement. And we lived a good life. I mean, really good life. So
So your parents grew up in the Depression, or did they sort of have like a different? Were they a little more conservative?
Yeah, my mom, to be polite, was cheap. Is that a good way to describe it?
Frugal.
Frugal. There you go. Is a better way to describe it. And my dad, not as much, but in the old days, much like your other grandpa. Yeah. I mean, if something broke, they didn't go buy new, and they would try and fix it. Where my generation, I would say, just throw it out and we'll get another one, which probably not good. Maybe good for the economy because you're spending, but you're doing a lot of waste there. But my mom was much more frugal than my dad. And my dad spoiled us. I remember my dad took us out, my brother and I, Uncle Chip. And I think I was probably 15 and Chip was like 13. And Honda, the motorcycle company, the company of motorcycles, was newer in the States. So this is maybe 60, 61, 62, 63, maybe. Yeah, probably. Anyway, so he picked us up, and we had an old 51 Buick that was a four-door giant car. And we picked me and my brother up. We went to one of his businesses, and it was a yard where they kept old beat-up trucks, and we took the back seat out, and he drove us to a Honda dealer, and we bought a Honda. And he said, when driving home, he said, "Don't tell your mother." And I'm thinking, well, what are we going to do with it? Don't tell. I said, okay. I had my first motorcycle when I didn't have you had to be 16 to get a driver's license, and I was either 14 or 15, and Chip was 13 or 14, I guess. And I remember we took it off, and I figured out how to drive it. And he said, "Well, just bring it home and don't say anything." I said, "What's it's going to be in the driveway?" So anyway, the mom, I don't know whether she thought. I think she thought it was more of a bad idea that it was a waste of money than it would have been dangerous. Like why, it wasn't like, oh, they're going to split their head open. It was because there was no helmets or anything then. You just go on the road. But my dad always did that kind of stuff. Another good story about my dad, the company, before he got more involved with ownership in the oil company, he had a we was always busy with working with relatives and stuff. And it was an appliance company in a bit more of an urban area near us, and they sold Fetter's air conditioners. So it's like today Carrier or York is a big name. In the old days it was Fetter's, and these are the kind of air conditioners that went in the windows. And this was the summertime. My dad called me up and he said, he called the house and said, get your brother, get your baseball, put his baseball uniform on, you put your Phillies hat on, I'm picking you up in half an hour. They picked us up. He distributed these Fetters to these other dealers. So there was a dealer in 69th Street in Upper Darby that had a baseball pitcher there named Bob Feller. Bob Feller was a Cleveland Indian. He was the first baseball player to actually throw before a jug's gun and measure 100-mile-an-hour baseball. So when he retired, Fetters hired him and his catcher to travel around to different places for promotional things, and he could throw so hard all the wind would blow off and it's cold from the air conditioning. So my dad picks us up. We go there and he said, "Stand here. Somebody's going to come over." So the promotional thing was, "We're going to pick a kid out of the audience and blah blah blah." Well, guess what? I got picked. It was a setup, and Bob Feller pitched to me, and I couldn't even see the ball when he threw it. So like the third or fourth pitch, the catcher said, "Just stick your bat out," and I put it out, and he hit the bat. And now, about maybe 10 years ago, Chip, my brother, gave me an autographed Bob Feller picture.
That's cool.
And it's in the basement. So it's
So Chip was the brother you went with?
Chip was the little brother that we went with, and he doesn't even remember. He remembers the story, but he doesn't remember going. So I could have been maybe 10, and he was 8-ish, I guess, or something like that. So, but that was it. That's just the way my dad was. He was we were always good stuff, and that's how I got started with the trains because of my dad. So.
I just assumed that was from Conrail. So
No, that was. I have pictures in my basement from. I think Chip is maybe 1 year old and I'm like 3 years old, and we lived in this little row house where all the cousins were, and I think we didn't. I don't think we had enough money to furnish the whole house. So the dining room, which was a little, maybe a 10 by 10 room. When I remember going to bed Christmas Eve, and when I woke up, and there was nothing in the dining room. When I woke up, there was this beautiful platform and 2 or 3 sets of trains and a Christmas tree in there. And for years, I figured, because the Santa Claus, you think, how did it? Well, because my grandparents lived right next door to us, all this stuff was in their garage. And then when we went to bed, my dad and my grandfather and my uncles would drag it all out, and I'm sure had a couple beers and set everything up. And I have all of those pictures as I grew. Even went to the basement at the old house and got bigger. And it was the first train platform I made in the old Drexel Hill house. I had the pictures blown up like this big, and I tried to mimic that platform, and I got most of it pretty close. But I still have all those pictures. And then when I started collecting trains with Nana, I said to my dad, I said, "Where's all the trains?" He said, "Ask your mother." And she threw everything in the trash because she didn't want to keep any of that. But as they moved, so maybe 10 sets of trains, I don't even know how many. So and everything went with them. So, but hey,
you'll have to send me a video of your trains, and then I'll include them in the video.
Okay, good.
Just so people can know. But yeah, it's
good.
Just for the context of the viewers, you've got quite the train set in your basement. It's how many sets?
I have about 100 sets of trains.
How many are set up on the tables?
I think I can run 8 or 9 on the big platform and maybe 5 or 6 on the smaller platform, and 1 set runs in the garden outside. So again, I'm a lucky guy. So.
Do you think that you going to Conrail had anything to do? Like, do you think that was, or was it just sort of random?
I think Conrail taught me more about. I think I learned a lot about business and finance at Conrail, kind of by mistake, because I certainly didn't go to school. I didn't go to college. I never had that kind of a degree. I like railroads, but that's not why I went there. I think
It was
I would have had
company,
trains. Trains was more the toy piece of it.
Yeah.
But when I go to my basement every day now, it reminds me of my dad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have his and Chip's pictures in there. So,
Yeah.
and my sister, whom I love, she's not in any of the pictures. So I guess she was too young at the time, or I don't remember. So.
What's the age difference with you, Chip, and Pat?
I'm 77. Chip is 75, and I think Pat is like 72 or 3. I should know.
Okay. So you guys are all pretty close.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But a little bit more space than you guys. You guys are 18 months.
Yeah.
We're 2 years at least.
Mm-hmm.
But all good.
Yeah. I'm curious, so it's been kind of asking about your life and then going back and your impression on all that, but I'm curious, like when you see, like going forward, when you look at my mom, Wendy's generation, Gen X, when it's my generation, the millennials, and then now Gen Z, like how do you think of those generations?
I think I hope that you guys have it as good as I did, and I'm not sure going forward what I see. I don't think there's always as much opportunity as I had, and I kind of, I don't want to say fell into things, but almost everybody, if you wanted to work hard, you could get a job. I think now, I'm hoping you guys can have as good a life as I did. I mean, I mean,
it's not going to be.
not just the economy. I mean, but when you look at the political picture and the global situation and the environment and the current wars that we're going through, I mean, it scares the crap out of me for you guys, not for me. I'm not going to be here that much longer. But I think I was spoiled. I mean, I was spoiled from not just my parents, that it was everybody grew up. It was, you know, I never knew any poor people. I mean, honest to God, I never knew anybody whose parents didn't work and didn't live in, you know, a comfortable home, not millionaires' homes, but higher end blue collar. And there was a huge opportunity for like me and my cousins, the Russells, and we all were able to grow up and have, you know, comfortable lifestyles. And I think I don't like what's going on, not just in this country, but in the world with politics. I think it's just crazy. It scares the hell out of me.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
So you're saying it scares the hell out of you, and is it safe to say it's kind of worrisome in the future? For you?
I'm worried, Jake. I'm worried about something that's going to hit a red button and it's all going to be gone. I mean, and besides all that, I'm worried that if we don't start doing stuff about, I think we have way too many people that can't get above like a poverty line kind of thing. So and that number keeps growing, and the other number keeps, my kind of a number, if you will, it keeps shrinking. I mean, there's more even in this country. I mean, how could there be so many poor people? I mean, how could there not be opportunity for everybody to have what I had? I mean, my mom and dad never went past the 5th or 6th grade, and they were able to make it and have a family and raise the family and keep the family connected.
And when did you start to see sort of the lack of opportunity become more of a worrisome issue?
I think a lot of it, believe it or not, came from your mom when she talked about public health, the things that she learned about. Like if you're poor in this country, you're basically screwed. I mean, you absolutely positively. Your mom taught me about one of the first things she did after she got her master's was lead paint poisoning. So if you're poor, you're living in a for crap house, you're eating lead paint. It's making your faculties not be able to comprehend and learn and memorize. Well, you're never going to get better. And she told me about ignorance with people, not through their own fault, but for the country like when she was on the thing about the car seats. People, they would give them a car seat and they didn't put the baby in it, they sold the car seat.
Yeah.
I mean, like I'm thinking, how could, we didn't teach that person the right thing. I don't think the school opportunities are fair. I went to Catholic school, but not private school, and it was no rich kids, and I certainly would have never been a Rhodes Scholar kind of person. But for my time it worked. I don't think it works anymore. I really don't. But I think Wendy, and again, if you're poor here, it's almost I think you should call it the cycle or the circle of poverty. It gets worse and worse and worse. I think that circle of poverty leads to there really is no family component that I was fortunate enough to have. That breakdown leads to who takes care of the kid and how does the kid get education and like none of those, they're never going to play Little League baseball or have what you would think is a decent education. And it also leads to the other thing that ticks me off in this country is I think everybody should go to college for like a state school level, and I don't know if it's 100% free, but it's crazy. Kids go to school and they come out and they'll say, I have $112,000. I said, well, you're screwed for the rest of your life. I mean, why do we do it that way? Yeah. I mean, most of the European countries, education's free. I think that, and I think all of those are easy fixes, but we never seem like we elect the right people to. We elect people that don't, in my mind, that look best on television but don't make the right decisions.
Yeah. So to be fair to say that, like, when Gen X, my mom's generation, became adults, that's when you started to see these cycles getting stronger and stronger.
It probably, and Jake, it could have been before that, and I just was too ignorant to realize it, because I don't want to say I grew up in a cocoon, but I grew up in Philadelphia metropolitan area, which was 2 million people roughly, and worked in the city of Philadelphia with a big diverse mix of people. But I in those early years, say mid-60s, everybody seemed like they were making a good living, and then I'm not sure when it actually started to change. Maybe I just didn't become aware of it till later.
Perspective grew. But like, what changes have you seen in the dynamics, like interpersonal dynamics, and then also cultural changes with the introduction of more technology, the internet, and even just TV, and then now social media and all that? Like, how does
I think it can all be good. I think it certainly helps with communication. I think the thing that I wish, when your parents went into Peace Corps, I wrote a letter to your mom every day, and I had to buy lightweight paper. It was called airmare paper, and it was a piece of 3-fold, and you wrote on it, and you folded it this way and folded it this way, and the stamp was already part of it because they didn't want to add any weight, and it took a month for them to get it. So there was no email, no phone mail, no internet, and they were in Papua New Guinea living like in a treehouse kind of a thing, and it was so for that I think communications instantaneous would be really, really good. A lot of the other stuff that happens on the internet I think is scary with I don't want to call it invasion of privacy, but it's I think young kids can make a mistake and not realize it. I think the internet, the good side of it, I think it really developed a lot more businesses that would have never existed before. Amazon, all of those. Not that Amazon's great, but there was a business model that would have never been able to work or expand if it wasn't for the communication capabilities.
Yeah. Do you think the quality of communication has changed? Like, what do you think you can would express yourself in the same way on a letter that like you and I would over text now when we're in different states?
I don't know the answer to that. I'm not a big. I've never been on Facebook.
Yeah.
I've never been on Instagram. I've never been on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
And there's probably 7 other ones that you can name that I've never been on. But I use text every day, multiple times a day. I get my newspaper delivered, which is pretty cool when you think about it. It took me a while to get used to it. I can read books on my iPad. So I think for that communication and staying plugged in with people, I think that was all positive. But I'm always afraid of, is there some young kid that's going to get hoodwinked into something nefarious because he was naive and some bad guy on the other side of the net did something wrong. So I think of that with you guys all the time. So I mean, just do the right thing. So, but it's all good.
Yeah. And then, so just shifting gears a little bit. So I'm curious about your hobbies. You know, you race cars.
I was lucky. I think we started earlier. I love cars. And my dad was a car guy, and he was a Ford guy, so I think I became a Ford guy. My cousins were Chevy guys. They stayed Chevy guys, the Corvettes, you know all about that. My first brand new car was a 65 Mustang Fastback, and I only had it like a really, really short while. And I guess it was before 65, and right when I started to work, and I couldn't afford it, so I got rid of it. And then some number of years later, I was at a charity auction at the Philadelphia Automobile Show in 1998, and they had a 66 Mustang, the black car, with the white stripes. It was an auction car, and I was babysitting a niece with Nana on a Sunday in the winter, and we didn't know what to do with her because her parents were away and with bad weather. So we went to the car show. In this car, we saw the auction. This was on a Sunday. I left Monday morning to go to Boston for work, and I was coming home the following weekend, and Nana did all the registration for me to go to the auction the following Saturday. Friday morning when I woke up, there was like 5 feet of snow in Boston, and the plane was canceled. The trains were canceled, the bus was canceled. So my boss and I rented a car that we told him, he got in line first, and when he thought he had the deal all done, they said, no, it's only a one-way rental, you gotta bring it back here. And so he moved out of the line, and I lied to him and said, yeah, it was a one-way rental. He told him the truth. So we drove literally like through the night. It took us like 9 hours to get home. So I got home at like maybe 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I got up at 9 o'clock, took the car back to the Hertz dealer, which it wasn't supposed to be there. Got to the auction and won the car. So that was and I had that car 20 plus years. And then I had a 2007 Shelby GT500, and now I have a 2012 Coyote engine Mustang GT. I had a 93 GT with a hot rod, with, like a 750 horsepower drag race car. I had.
When did you start racing?
I started like I had a track like 1998, right when I got that car. So, and then I raced for Tommy Vassell, and I raced for like 20 years. We said we were gonna. Could we race until we were 70, and we just about made it. So, because we figured out and these cars were, my car went like in the 9 seconds and a quarter mile at 144 miles an hour. That was fast. So, yeah, and I figured I'm too old.
What did you like about it? Was it the
rush?
The rush.
Yeah. It was like, I remember the first time I raced my really fast car.
When do you feel the rush? Is it before the start, like, or is it
the whole thing? Yeah, the whole. But especially when you whack the gas, it was like, especially with the supercharger. I remember first time we went, and this thing was really quick. the wheel stand is like the wheels would come up in the air a little bit and scoot down the track. And I remember getting done. I came back to the pits, and my buddy said, "Wow." He said, "What did it feel like?" I said, "It felt like my hair was on fire inside my helmet." It was like, whoa, hold on to this thing. So it was a neat thing. So
were you the type to chase the rush of just like I always like adrenaline, like high action moments.
I loved all that stuff.
Yeah.
I just love cars and but and when you drag race, you always want to go faster. You always Nana, who didn't understand at the beginning, she used to ask me, "How did you do today?" And then everything was always broken. She would always say, "How much did it cost us today?" Because something broke and you had to fix it. So. But I also had another neat car. I had a 1991 Alfa Romeo 164 that I restored. That was Nana's father's. That was kind of beat up. It took me a long time, but I wound up going to Italy to get parts for it to finish it. I have another Alfa Romeo GTV6 that I bought in this country, and in 1998 that we mailed over to Italy. I had multiple motorcycles. My first motorcycle was the Honda that we talked about earlier, and then after that I had a Triumph Tiger 200cc. I had a single-cylinder BSA 400cc. I had a Triumph Bonneville. I had a Honda Sport 305. I had a Harley Sportster 1998 Hugger, and I had a 2003 100th Anniversary Edition Sportster. So I had at least 12 motorcycles, I guess, that I can remember. And I guess 6 Mustangs, maybe 7. 6, I guess, yeah. But all good.
Yeah.
And another thing about not knowing how well off we had it. All my cousins, we all always had cars and motorcycles and look, but all the other people today don't have anything. So I never knew the difference. So it was just all good stuff. So.
And you mentioned a couple of times and honestly the reputation that I've heard of you is that you just kind of no, it's good. Like just lucky guy. Like everything falls into place. I've heard you've won a lot of raffles and stuff like that.
I really have.
Yeah.
I am a lucky. I know it though. I mean, I am a lucky guy. Yeah.
So I guess is there any parts of your life that have been unlucky? Is there any and how?
Nah, Jake. I would feel guilty complaining. I mean, I really. I got you guys. Nana. I'd like to. I worked for a company that I loved. We were involved in a hostile takeover. If they gave me a blank piece of paper and said, write down how you're going to leave this company, how big the bag of money is, you would have never even thought of what was going to happen. So, talk about lucky. It's just like you went to work one day and you said, "Oh, the company's closing." So I was retired on my 54th birthday. I've been retired for 23 years and never looked back. And raced the cars and had the motorcycles and had the trains and vacations all the time. And so it's all good. But I am a lucky guy. I mean, I've won a lot of the raffles. I mean, all kinds of stuff. So, let's see.
Do you feel like gratitude for being lucky, or do you ever feel like guilty when
I don't think I feel guilty, but but I know I'm either lucky or blessed. I mean, I just even health-wise, I had a couple of cancer scares, but I mean, for the most part, I mean, this is Jakey, 77 years old. I'm still doing basically what I want. So it's and knock on wood. You guys are good. You guys are healthy. You guys all have great educations. Look at your mom and dad, how successful they are, and the lifestyles they have, and the values they taught you guys. And so, hey, nothing. I would feel guilty if I complained. I'd like to do it for another 77. That's probably not going to happen though. So, but hopefully you are. So,
Yeah.
So it's good.
Cool. I really just kind of wanted to get an.
Is that close, Jakey?
Yeah.
What we want?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't really have a specific plan, but I just kind of wanted to get a portrait of.
Yeah. Did you learn anything today that you didn't know?
Yeah, there's like I mean I've had guesses. I've seen old movies about sort of the blue collar neighborhoods that you're describing.
Oh, I love
kinda, But I kind of just wanted to be able to visualize it,
If I said it all of my life, that would be wrong, but it was a huge part of my. Actually, I remember when my parents moved to the nice house. I would have slept on a concrete if we didn't have to move. I really didn't want to move.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, certainly you never wanted to change schools. Or this was like, I said, oh man, why are we going to the nice neighborhood? Well, I didn't know it was a nice neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
So. And my cousins were all still there. So.
Yeah.
But then after that, then they all moved. So we kind of, I think the Conlan McNeely Irish clan, they were almost like termites. They kind of went, everywhere I ever lived, I was always near a family. So when my dad said he moved to his third place in Lawrence Park, a year later my aunt and uncle did. When we moved, my grandparents, your great grandparents lived with us. Barbara and Billy, they bought another house around the corner from us in Lawrence Park. And the Russell boys were and it was always just close.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think I was lucky and was too stupid to know it. I mean, or blessed and too stupid, not stupid, just.
You keep interchanging blessed and lucky, but like if you had to, do you think of it more on the lucky side or more on the blessed side? It's a nuanced distinction.
Probably blessed is a better word. Yeah, I mean, it really was. I mean, it was. Jack had a good life, and I just.
You're having a good life.
I am having a good life. Yeah, I really am. So it's. I started golfing when I was 7 years old. Who knew? So and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And I got 67 rounds last year. So this is all good. So.
Who knows what you're gonna get into when you're 80?
Oh God, I hope I'm still here. So actually, I'm going to start. I'm glad you said that. When I go back, I'm going to start to play tennis with our guys.
Nice.
Yeah.
Have you tried pickleball? I know that one's growing popular.
I think the development we live in has a couple tennis courts and a pickleball court, and they're always short tennis players. So I got a racket and tried a couple times, and we have a machine that'll pitch the ball, shoot the ball. So the one guy said, you pick the golf up, you're fine. We all play doubles. We're all 80 years old, so when we go back, I'll sort.
Nice.
But it should be, if it works, what's the bless? What's the who you couldn't? I don't think you could have drawn out my life any better than it was.
Yeah. The one other thing that I thought about earlier in the conversation and just kind of remembered it, but you were talking about your dad kind of moved up. I think that was the term you used. And then, would you say it's fair to say you kind of moved up as well?
Big time.
Yeah. And then my mom, or my parents too. Just what do you think that is? Like why? Like what do you think is? Like why is that pattern? Do you think it's just chance, being blessed, or do you think it's?
I actually think me with work, I think we said before, good mentors and good. But I think I was a good worker. I mean, I love work. I love my job. And I think I learned that from my dad. And I think I know your mom and dad. I mean, they're education and work and doing the right thing, and they have much more of a sympathetic ear for things that are wrong in the world that I was too naive to. Well, I'm very proud of them. I mean, they're successful. I mean, she got a PhD. I mean, it's Dr. Wynn.
So do you think that was part of your upbringing? Was like learning hard work, and do you think?
I know it was. Yeah,
passed down. Perpetually?
I mean, I knew it was, and I knew from my cousins because we all the 8 of us on the block, 0, not one of them ever went to college.
Mm-hmm.
And they all wound up with Chip owned his own company. Barbara has a successful career at Vanguard. The two of the Russell boys were union welders. Or the welders made a gajillion dollars. It was a great union to be in. Bobby, Tommy worked for Wyeth Laboratories, wound up with a buyout it was just like we were born at the right sets of years that when the company started to go through this buyout thing, we were like the first ones and they just kept giving stuff away. So we were both, I called them on the phone and they said, what do you see what happened to me? He said, the same thing happened to me. We said, start racing. No, we didn't, but we said, we always wanted to, and I said, I'm going to get a hot rod. So, and then he got a hot rod. So and we did it and traveled all over the East Coast racing a hot rod. So, all good. All good.
So I kind of got the picture I wanted to, and I feel fortunate to be here getting sunburned.
Yeah, well, that's all good. Well, I'm fortunate to have you, and I'm very proud of my grandson and all my grandchildren, and my daughter and my son-in-law, and all 18 of the pets.
Maggie's more than carrying her weight.
Yeah, sorry about the chickens. I should have said that. So good stuff. That's it?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, buddy.
That's it.
Love you, hon.
Yeah, love you too.